Hello and welcome to part 2 of my guide on how to speed level alternative characters. In this video I will talk more in detail about which shrines to get in normal and which ones to skip, which quests you should do in Elite and Ultimate, and also I will highlight the most important bosses that you will have to fight doing those quests in Elite and Ultimate, and give you some additional tips on how to defeat those bosses in a way that you don't die yourself. So at the end of my last video you might have been wondering which 30 shrines is this guy talking about, right? So let me show you here which exact 30 shrines I'm talking about. You can always go to the grimtools.com/map and then you will see like the shrines here. But the problem is that like you don't really know which ones do spawn in normal as well. But if you want to know the exact locations of these shrines, you just click here on the left of the shrine and then you click on, for example, I don't know, Shrine in Ancient Grove, right? Or Covian Foothills and so on and so on. I'm gonna talk about these shrines in a second here and call them by their name as they are over here, and then you just click on these here and then you know where to go, right? So let's start with Act 1, and in Act 1 you will have a couple of shrines available to you. So the first one is the one in the Burial Cave here at Burial Hill. The second shrine is from Foggy Bank, so this one is called Foggy Bank. The third one is called Flooded Passage. Number 4 is also called Burial Cave, but this one is the Burial Cave in Burridge Outskirts. Then you have the one in the Burridge Estates, and then the one in Warden's Lab. And then last but not least, also the one in Devil's Aquifer. Those that you should skip are the one in Hidden Path, the one in Herald Hill, and the one in East March. Like, these will either not be there, or they will just take too long to get to. Moving on to Act 2, you should get the one in the Spined Cove. You will find those under Covian Foothills. Then you want to get the shrine at the Rocky Coast, the one in Cronley's Hideout, this one in Order Akovia. This one is the one that you go to via Twin Falls Rift, that is like still outside of the dungeon. Then the one in the Barren Highlands, and also the one in the Mountain Deeps. I suggest you to skip the ones in Steps of Torment and the one down in the Undercity, because those two just simply take too long to walk to. Moving on to Act 3, you can very easily get the one in Infested Farms, portal this portal and then go over here. I suggest you to actually not take the one down in the Den of the Lost inside the Reptilian Hive cluster, because first of all the Hive has multiple spawn locations and like finding the right one might take a while, and then also like walking through all these Reptilians can take a while as well. I also skipped the one in the Conflagration as well as the one in Morton's Claim. This one, for example, doesn't even spawn in normal, and this one I believe doesn't spawn in normal either, so you can't even take these. The one on the Blood Grove is debatable as well. I have it marked here as you should take it. This one is kind of expensive when it comes to mats. It does cost you like a Chthonian Seal of Binding, right? That is kind of expensive, but it does have a fixed spawn location and it's rather easy to go to. And then also the one on the Darkway Gate. It's quite the walk actually, but it is a shrine that you have to like fight for, so you don't have to like buy any materials for this one. And then also it is worth it usually to also go for the Pine Barrens. You can even do like 1 or 2 quests while doing these shrines, because the quests and the shrines are basically in the same spot. So the shrines you want to look out for here in the Pine Barrens are the one in the Shaded Basin and the one in Tyrant's Hold. Moving on to Act 4, you don't actually want to take too many shrines here. You just want to take the one in the Estacan Valley. This one's really easy to go to. You want to take the one in the Black Sepulchre, and you want to take the one in the Necropolis. I do skip the other ones. Well, the Mogdorgan Shrine requires lots of preparation anyways. Tomb of the Archon is simply a pretty long walk, as well as it needing rare materials, which is pretty costly. Then you have the one at the Tomb of the Watchers, which doesn't even spawn in normal, and the one in Bastion of Chaos, which requires you to repair the bridge, which is like 40 scrap, so yeah, scrap that. So after Act 4, you want to continue your devotion hopping in Act 7, and Act 7 is awesome. It has lots of easier to get to shrines. One of the actually harder to go to ones is the one at Temple of Ozir, but I think it's still worth it to go to. Then you have the one in the Corvan Oasis. This one's a little bit more hidden, but check it out in Grim Tools, right? Then you have the one in the Karen Docks, and the one in the Sandblown Ruins. These two are also pretty nice and easy to get to. And then you also have the one in the Sunbane Oasis. This one is called Sanctuary of Horin. This one is inside the Sanctuary of Horin. And then you also have the ones in the Ruins of Abid, as well as the ones in the Sunward Spire and the Valley of the Chosen. Now, the one in the Valley of the Chosen is actually inside the Tomb of Nephos. I do not suggest you to go for the one on the Tomb of the Heretic or the one on the Tomb of the Irish Sun, because this one is quite a long walk, and this one, I don't even know if it actually spawns in normal, and if it does, it's also quite the walk, and enemies might be a little bit too strong for you here. On to Act 5, I suggest you to only like take one shrine here actually, the one in Gloomwald, and then there's one that you can also go for. I don't usually do it, but you can do this. This one is inside the Tomb of Ugdal in the Agdenbog. I definitely do not suggest you to go for the one in Ancient Grove, or the one at the Den of the Ancient, or the one here in the mines near Bearholm, which doesn't even spawn in normal anyways, and then you have this one in the Chthonian Rift, which I believe it doesn't spawn in normal as well anyways, so yeah, don't go for these. And Act 6, yeah, just don't go there. So you will get 7 from Act 1, 6 from Act 2, 5 from Act 3, 3 from Act 4, 5 from the first part of Act 7, 3 from the second part of Act 7, and 1 from Act 5, giving you a total of exactly 30 devotion points. Now onto Elite and later onto Ultimate. So from now on I will talk about the quests that you should do in Elite and Ultimate. Basically you do the same ones in Elite and Ultimate, so up until Lucius in Act 4, the procedure will be the same here for Elite and Ultimate. Also, whenever there is a boss that you should be like extra careful about when doing a certain quest, I will highlight that boss and give you some more detailed information about that boss and how to kill him. And which abilities to look out for when you fight him, and which ones you have to absolutely dodge. Now, Ground Tools unfortunately does not provide us with a quest overview, so that is something you have to actually check in the game. But we do have this list of completed quests here, and you can see these are all the quests that I have done here on Elite. So you have a Cultist in the Mist. This one is the Direne quest. This one requires you to pick up Cultist's Order in Burvich Village. This one is Lost Survivor. This one requires you to rescue Faldis in Lower Crossing. The Seamstress, this one requires you to collect 3 fabric in the Burvich Harbor area. Something for Nothing and Flesh and Iron are 2 quests that are provided by the guy that usually stands around here, and he wants you to kill the first 3 zombies here, Faris, Julius and Negan, and then he also tells you to kill Balrus and Hagra, which you find in the Burvich outskirts, and you find these 3 guys in Whitemire, or like you find Faris actually in the old dump, and then you find Julius and Negan in Whitemire. Welcome to Darius Crossing. I mean, yeah, this one is whatever. This is, I guess, what you get after doing the first quest, right? After you kill the reanimator in the burial cave. Good old Sleuth Charm. This one requires you to find 3 Sleuth necklaces that you give to Torvin, and he's gonna give you a ring in return. Ironclad Chef. This one is the Find Ilgrim quest in Burvich Outskirts. The Lost Caravan. This one requires you to find Luther Graves, which is the shopkeeper here over here in the Foggy Bank. The Spirit Guide, where you just talk to Sadina in Act 1 in Darius Crossing and you will get some free XP. A Sister's Gift. This one requires you to kill Milton Hart in Whitemire. The Inventor's Apprentice. This one requires you to find Darlet in the cellar in Burvich Estates. Tale of Two Blacksmiths. This one requires you to talk to Angram and choose between Angram or Duncan. Also, don't forget to go down to Devil's Aquifer, get the shrine there, and kill Wiloth the Corruptor. Now, the final boss of Act 1 is Warden Krieg, and this guy is actually the only guy that you have to like watch out for in Act 1. Like, Act 1 is really easy on Elite and on Ultimate, except for Warden Krieg. Warden Krieg can actually kill you if you are not careful enough. So first of all, let's check out Warden Krieg here in Grim Tools, and let's see which abilities he actually has. So in phase 1 he can spawn some Aether Traps, which deal some lightning and Aether damage when they explode. Then also when he dies, he will deal this AoE around himself, right, that deals some Aether damage. And you can also see that like all of his other abilities deal either physical or aether damage or both. And this one can stun you for like 1 second, this one can stun you for 1.3 to 1.5 seconds. There is not really anything that you really have to like look out for in phase 1 except for his stuns and that he does deal aether as well as physical damage. So which kind of resistances do you want to have fighting against this guy in Elite and Ultimate? Obviously you want to have aether resistance, as well as maybe some decent armor and physical resistance. Looking at phase 2, you will see that you also want to have pierce and bleed resistance, only if you get hit by this ability, right? If you don't get hit by this ability, you will be fine. And you check out his other abilities, right? These are all like physical and aether again. So he still has only physical and aether abilities except for this one ability. You can see that this ability, for example, reads range long. This one reads range short. And this means, as far as I know, that if you are in a short range, so like basically melee range around this guy, he will rather use this ability than this ability. And if you are at long range, so like at the ranged distance, right, he will rather use this ability. I've never seen him use this ability, for example, when you are meleeing him, and I've also never seen him use this ability when you are not meleeing him. And yeah, also note that these are 5 projectiles, and if you get hit by all 5, they can hurt a lot, and you might actually die because of this. Even if you have good aether and pierce resistance, it still deals a lot of physical damage, and 5 times that amount of physical damage can be pretty devastating. Don't get hit by this, otherwise you will end up like our friend Pew Square here, who never became a real boy.
Immediately, and then I put on the 2-step authentication, and I'm dead. Oh my god, no! No! I knew it was gonna be something physical! And even Naomi's here! God damn it!
I wanna thank Pew Square here for allowing me to use this clip here. because it's just a perfect example of how to not fight Krieg. Instead, you should try to just face tank phase 2 and use your potions or defensive cooldowns for whenever he does his Aether Stomp. And if you feel like you cannot face tank him, then please dodge the projectiles. The Outlaw threat, well, this one is basically Act 2, right? So murderers and worse. This one requires you to kill the first Cronley's gang member outside of Darius Crossing. The warrior amongst rovers. This one requires you to talk to Quaid and his rovers in the Old Arkovia area. And then also you have the Life for an Eye quest, as well as some other quests from Quaid in Old Arkovia. This one requires you to kill Moneybags Martin. Yeah, this one was the quest that requires you to destroy the forges and the Four Hills. Also in Act 2 you have these Arkovian Foothills quests, for example Vengeance, where you basically have to decide what to do with Isaiah. Clearing the Way, this one requires you to blow up the barricade. A Family Crisis, here you should try to save Stephen Skinner and his family to Darius Crossing. The Old Elder, this one requires you to find the talisman of the Elder that has fallen in the Arkovian Foothills and return it back to Grieven. You have this Troll Rampage quest, where you have to kill the troll, and this is actually a boss that you have to be like really careful about. Now the troll from the Troll Rampage quest is called Gulgoth the Rampaging, and this guy has basically one ability that you absolutely want to dodge, otherwise it might hurt you a lot and stun lock you and thus kill you in the next hit. And the ability I'm talking about is this single target attack here. Initial timeout 4 seconds and the delay into next use 6 seconds. So he can use this every 6 seconds basically. You can already see like range short, which means you will only use it if you're like in melee range with him. If you're actually like trying to face tank this guy. And this thing can stun you for up to 2.6 seconds if you don't have good stun resistance. And also deals a ridiculous amount of physical damage and 50% of his weapons damage as well. So if he has a really good weapon, this will deal even more damage. So basically the rule for fighting this guy is don't get hit by his overhead slam, and then you're fine. There is also a nice example clip on how to not fight Gulgoth by race.
What the fuck?
An old threat, this one basically requires you to kill Darius Cronley. Now Darius Cronley is actually kinda similar when it comes to damage types to the Warden Krieg. He also deals lots of Aether damage as well as some physical damage, but actually less than Krieg. And overall I would say that Darius Cronley is an easier boss than Warden Krieg, especially after the last buff that Warden Krieg got. He can spawn some Aether formations, which again can also spawn Rotten Soldiers, Thrashers and Playwalkers. So these adds can be quite annoying. But apart from that, his most annoying ability is probably his bubble. This one over here, which gives him 90% absorption for 9 seconds. So during these 9 seconds, depending on your character, most of the time it's just worth it more to run around in circles and wait until his bubble has faded, and then you start attacking him during the 18 seconds that you have between this thing fading and his next use. And the second annoying ability that he has are these fire projectiles that have like 0.4 seconds recharge only, and he will use them a lot and spam them basically under your feet. While thus the A reduction only applies once, the damage is gonna be stacking up. So the longer you stand in place, the more damage you will get. So you should always make sure to like move every now and then when you're trying to face tank him. Try to run around him in circles basically while attacking him, to avoid taking too much damage from this fire underneath your feet. Cronley's secret: after killing Cronley, go to his small lab and destroy the crystal. Find Elsa. I mean, this is like a gimmick quest that you do whenever you kill Cronley anyway, right? A Royal Remedy is a side quest from the rovers that requires you to collect some Royal Jelly. And also you have this paying tributes quest in the Arkovian Harbor. And this is an interesting quest because if you just go here after killing Cronley, you don't have to do anything except for speaking to Alicia, and she's just gonna like give you some experience and some free scrap. Also part of Act 2 are the Old Arkovia quest lines. You have some things that you find here, like the Annals of Arkovia next to the shrine in the Four Hills. Old Scars. Now this is a quest you should not miss. You get this quest from a necromancer outside of the Undercity near the Twin Falls Rift, and this one requires you to kill the 3 bosses inside the Undercity, right? Nombos Dread, Loudus Vagra and Rowena Kur. The most annoying mobs fighting these enemies are usually just priests that heal those bosses, as well as skeletal gargantuans trapping you and smacking you. After killing those 3 bosses, you should not stop there in the Undercity, you should just continue and finish the Undercity, kill Kilrian, and do the shrine here as well. Now Kilrian is usually not that hard, but you have to be careful about his fire ground damage. Like once he uses the ability that basically puts the ground on purple fire below your feet, you should probably take a step back and re-engage him outside of that fire. Also, after killing the 3 bosses in the Undercity as well as Kilrian, you will get a new quest that requires you to talk to Karroz outside of the Steps of Torment. Now you do not have to do that, I recommend you to just skip that and just go for the Deadman's Gulch in Elite and Smuggler's Pass in Ultimate. And at the end of the Smuggler's Pass you will meet a boss called Voldrak. Now this one is easily skippable on Elite because you can just port to the portal at Deadman's Gulch. On Ultimate however you will have to fight this guy, and he's basically as hard, or maybe even a little bit harder than Gulgoth, the guy that you fought in Arkovia in Act 2. And this guy, just like any other big troll, has again the ability to stun you for 1.8 or 2.6 seconds and has huge physical damage, so if you don't have good armor or physical resistance, you have to dodge his overhead slams. Then shortly before Act 3 you also got to the Deadman's Gulch, right? And here you have 2 quests. One is the Algrim quest to like basically make it to Homestead and then bring him there. And the other one is Too Late for Rescue. This one requires you to find Dahlia inside the Mountain Deeps. This lady will always be dead unfortunately, and she's always gonna be next to Ikrix the Ravener. So if you find Ikrix you also found her. Continuing on in Act 3 you have the Black Legion's Finest. This one is the Algrim quest in Homestead. Basically speak to Algrim, right, and speak to Captain Sommer. And then you have to kill the Ethereal Abomination in the Gruesome Harvest. And the boss was actually quite easy for me on Elite. But let's check it out first, and then we also take a look at the ultimate fight. Now the Amalgamation is another very physical and aether heavy boss. And she also has one ability that can stun you for 0.9 seconds. That's not too bad compared to other bosses. The boss really starts to show its full power in Ultimate when, for example, the double smash with the spiky arms deals like 90% of your HP. So yeah, try to either not get hit by that, or be prepared to get hit by that and use like a damage reduction ability like Warcry before that, or have your circuit breakers ready, such as Mendir's Will in this example. Also, you want to absolutely avoid standing inside of those green fountains, as well as getting hit by those aether waves. And also attached to Act 3 is the Search for Food questline. This one starts actually with Barnabas in Devil's Crossing. And then also Douglas Oldbarrow in Homestead will require you to kill some Demeterian egg clusters, and then to also kill the Demeterian Queen inside the Demeterian Hive. Now this Swamp Queen Ravna inside the Demeterian Hive is not the hardest boss overall, but she can be quite scary, and because of that I do want to highlight her here as well. And she has 2 phases. The first phase is a little bit more on the acid poison side, as she just sits there in that corner and spews that poison and acid at you. Just try to not get shotgunned by some of the projectile bursts, and also try to not stand inside of too many poison foods at the same time. When you are face sticking her, she has some slice attacks that you might want to dodge if you have low phys res as well as low armor, especially when you still use the low stat on ultimate. But overall her first stage shouldn't be too much of a problem. Consider clearing out of the whole area before actually starting to attack her, because all the ads might be a little bit annoying for you while you try to fight this boss. The second phase of Swarm Queen Ravna is a little bit more heavy on the physical side of things, which makes this phase scarier if you're playing with the local set. And also she has that attack that has a chance to stun you, and also you should try to not get hit by the rocks that she spawns from the sky. These rocks can hit you for big physical damage as well as stun you at the same time. So especially on ultimate, consider just cutting around the second phase. And once you have done all these quests and you have a certain amount of reputation with the homestead, you actually will be able to bring some food to Barnabas, and then you can go back to Devil's Crossing, also talk to Barnabas and get some extortion experience. But yeah, the timely arrival was the quest to bring Algrim from the Deadman's Gulch to Homestead actually. Other quests in Act 3 include the Missing Diary quest that requires you to find the diary of Dyla Thornsbury. Now a questline that I usually do in the middle of Act 3 is the Jagged Waste questline. So you're gonna go to the Pine Barrens Rift, via the Prospector's Trail or Homestead Rift. You blow up the barricade, go to the Pine Barrens. Or you can just port there directly on Elite because you have all the portals. And there you will find 2 NPCs giving you a total of 5 quests. They will only give you 2 at a time. So if you know what to do already, you can get the items you need and kill the enemies that you need to kill in advance. So first of all, you need to get the Manticore Venom, then you need to kill Mogara and the Jagged Waste, then you need to kill Old Bloodbriar, the Gloomweaver, and next to the Gloomweaver you will always find a shrine. And then on the way to the Tyrant Soul you will also find a shrine, and then inside the Tyrant Soul you can also kill Bloodfeast the Ruthless. Now I wanna shortly talk about Mogara and Bloodfeast because they're both pretty scary, and Mogara has lots of pierce and physical damage, and also a little bit of vitality, poison and bleed damage. So you do need to absolutely max out your pierce resistance to 80%, also vitality and poison would be good at 80%, and then you need either good armor, good physical resistance, or you need to know that she deals lots of physical damage, and you have to try to fight her alone and not alongside other Manticores. Now Bloodfeast the Ruthless inside the Tyrant's Hold, he deals mostly lots of physical damage that will be scary for you. He also has insane amount of bleed damage, but I mean you can always react to bleed damage, and also bleed damage will not go through your circuit breakers. So this guy is mostly scary because he has lots of physical damage, and low corset has low resistances against physical. And then also as you move on you will go to the Bloodgrove, and you have some Bloodgrove quests such as searching for the 5 Black Legion insignias, clearing out the lumber mill from Chthonians, as well as rescuing the farmers in the Bloodgrove and killing Karroz in the Darkway Gate. Now Karroz is another boss I would like to talk about with you guys, not because he's particularly strong, but he is basically the end boss of Act 3, and that should be at least worth a small mention here and a small look at Grunt Tools. So Karroz is a 2-stage boss as well, and his first human form is kinda underwhelming. He just deals some chaos damage, so he's actually like the first boss that deals chaos damage and lots of it. And you have to have like good chaos and vitality resistance against this guy, otherwise you will probably have a bad time fighting this guy. Also worth mentioning is that he has a debuff called the Bloodstone Curse, which will reduce your poison, vitality and chaos resistance by 25%, as well as your OA by 10%. Now when he dies, he will spawn Thal Nosh, which is basically his second form, and this guy deals some fire and physical damage, as well as the chaos and vitality damage that the first guy already did. Also he has this Spectral Vortex. The Spectral Vortex is definitely his scariest ability, and this one will heal him as well as reduce the resistances by a flat 40, and also has this aura attached to it which will reduce your resistances by another minus 25% for vitality, poison and chaos. These are the vitality pools that you can see here in the video. So how do you fight this guy? Basically as long as you can withstand his physical attacks, you just always facing him. Unless he spawns these pools, then you want to get out of the pool ASAP and then re-engage him outside of the pool. You can see the telegraph for that ability pretty nicely here when he raises his hands up to the skies. Also here in Act 3 you will have some quests from another side faction, either Comets Chosen or Death's Vigil. If you are sided with Comets Chosen, you have to basically collect 3 Seals of Bindings, you have to kill Bolvar, and you have to go to Fort Heron and basically kill the Necromancer there. If you are sided with Death's Vigil, however, you will have to collect 3 Seals of Binding again, find Malkadarr's remains, and also kill an Ethereal over here in the Stolen Quarry. It's actually not here on the map, but it's like, if you go to Fort Heron, right, if you go to the Bloodgrove Rift and then you go to like the east, and then you go north, then you will go to the Fort Heron. But if you go like to the southeast instead, then you will make it to the Stolen Quarry. So the Stolen Quarry should be like around here in the map actually. Or if you check it out on this map instead, you will have the Bloodgrove Rift over here, and then if you go here to the northeast, right, and then to the north, this is where you would go if you go to Fort Heron, and if you go here, to this area here you will find the Stolen Quarry instead. Now the Stolen Quarry is an interesting place, because not only do you have this boss Novaria Stormfire that you have to kill to get the Ethereal Essence if you're sided with Death's Vigil, but you also have this Hulk that is approaching right here, who you kind of don't want to fight at the same time. Venarius the Backbreaker, right? So if possible, you should try to fight these not at the same time, but sometimes it just can't be helped because you pull them by accident. Also on top of that, this place also will have a shrine for you in Elite and Ultimate. There will not be a shrine here on Normal, but this shrine even on Ultimate and Elite can be quite scary, as you can see. this one spawning 4 flash relics here, 2 elites, 2 normal ones, and even 2 additional ones after that on the second wave on Elite here. After you have done all of these Act 3 quests, you talk to Inquisitor Krieg again and you just meet up with him in Fort Icon, so you can just like directly port to Fort Icon. And now in Fort Icon you have to kill Commander Lucius as well as find the supplies inside of the armory and then give these supplies either to Homestead or the Black Legion. I would usually suggest you to always give the supplies to the Black Legion, because farming reputation with Homestead is super easy anyways, because you just get reputation by killing beasts. Yeah, but right at Fort Icon, this is the Commander Lucius quest. Now, Commander Lucius is another boss worth talking about. So he has a couple of interesting abilities, right? He has some default attacks, which are whatever. Then he has the meteors that drop from the skies, and they will also stun you as well as reduce your resistances by 40%. Note that this 40% is multiplicative, so if you have 80% resistances and you get hit by this, you will have 48% after you get hit. And if you have 120% resistances, thinking that you have overcapped Aether by 40%, thinking that you are basically safe against resistance reduction, you will still be left with only 72% and not 80% after this, because of the way this resistance reduction works. Also, the meteors deal some decent physical damage and can stun, so because of this, basically my way to approach this ability is just don't get hit. And then he also has this flamethrower, which he usually will use before he drops down the first meteors on you. And this flamethrower deals Aether damage as well as burn damage as well as flat 25 resistance reduction. So if you get hit by this, and then you get hit by this after that, your resistances will drop even lower than before. Also, he shoots these Aether balls at you, which deal fire damage, Aether damage, burn damage, and also reduce your DA by 184 flat, at level 107 at least. So this projectile burst is actually his shotgun ability, not his balls that he's shooting at you. It can shotgun you with all 12 projectiles at the same time. Yeah, don't get hit by all 12 projectiles at the same time at least. The balls that he is shooting is actually this one, fire projectiles, and these are some physical and Aether damage. It's not too scary usually. They also leave a Aether ground behind, which deals some Aether damage, but as long as you have maxed out Aether resistance, this should be fine for you. Well, overall, how do you want to prepare against this guy? Well, ideally you want to have your Aether and fire resistance overcapped by 25%, and then you don't want to get hit by this ability. And you can see basically exactly that in the fight here in Ultimate against Lucius as well. I'm just facing him until he drops down his meteors, then I disengage and re-engage immediately after that, and yeah, just like use every now and then a pot, like whenever I'm dropping low. I do have to say that I was out of potions here, so in the end I just went over to my ranged weapon and just executed him from afar. Now there are 2 bosses that are attached to the Kaiman/Vigil questline as well in Act 4, and if you have sided with Death's Vigil, you will have to fight Archon Baltholem down on the Tomb of the Archon. And this guy, except for his 452 DA reduction hit, which obviously will be lower at lower levels such as 75, he is not that scary. So make sure to have enough DA against this guy and then you should be fine. Malkadarr, however, who is the boss that you will have to fight if you are sided with Kaimans, almost cost me 2 of my characters and actually cost me 1 of my characters. Because not only does he have the same crazy DA reduction that the Archon Baltholem has, but he will also spawn with a shield, and he can have a crazy retaliation shield if he has the right rolls. And the scary retaliation damage would be physical damage. Like all other retaliation damage types should usually not matter as long as you have 80% resistances, but if this guy spawns with like a double physical retaliation shield, for example a Overlords of Thorns, right, this will have insane amounts of physical retaliation damage, and if you hit this guy with a shield like this, you actually just might kill yourself. So if you're wondering why the hell you take so much damage hitting this guy with a melee attack, right, then you will know now that it is because he has a physical retaliation damage shield. This can be especially unlucky if you are using the skeletons from the Raise the Dead devotion that I was using here on this character, and these skeletons actually attacked, and since they are player scale pets without a real health bar, this retaliation damage got reflected onto myself, and that's why I died here. And the same thing can actually happen with any enemy that has the chance to wield a shield like this. So not only Malkadarr, but also some of the undead from the Undercity, such as Kyrian. So now, since we made it up to Fort Icon from the quest lines, the following quests will only have to be done on Elite and not on Ultimate anymore, because you should be level 94 at the end of Fort Icon. So first quest after Fort Icon, the Necropolis, you will have to cleanse the Necropolis, right? You just port to the Necropolis Interior Rift, and then you kill the Chthonians there, you speak to Algrim after that, and also you get the shrines in the Black Sepulchre as well as in the Necropolis. After that, you have to just kill the 3 blood wagons, and then you can go inside the Tomb of the Watchers and kill the Loghorrean. Now before the Loghorrean you will have to fight the Bloodlord Thalonis. This guy basically only has one cast debuff, the Bloodstone Curse again. This will reduce your poison, wit and chaos resistance by 25%. So ideally you want to have 25% overcap on poison, wit and chaos against this guy. The Loghorrean itself is a 3-phase boss. It will deal chaos, vitality, fire, acid and physical throughout all 3 phases, with the scariest ability actually being this acid-like projectile burst ability, because you have 8 projectiles here. They also deal lots of physical damage, and yeah, physical damage will hurt a local character a lot. Now the second phase will be a little bit annoying, because when the second phase spawns, it will spawn these Loghorrean Dreadguards, and you might have to kill these guys first before re-engaging the Loghorrean. When fighting these guys, you especially want to look out for this debuff, which can reduce your OA and DA by a lot. And another spawn that actually each phase of the Loghorrean can spawn, the first, the second and the third one, are these tentacles, and they are really annoying because they have 39 flat RR for 5 seconds if you get hit by this fire chaos wave. The third phase is basically not any harder than the second phase. The third phase only spawns these tyrants, which are arguably easier to handle than the Dreadguards. But yeah, whenever you are fighting the Loghorrean and you want to face tank this, whatever it is, you should always watch out for the physical acid projectile burst. After you kill the Loghorrean, you go back to Fort Icon and you talk to Inquisitor Creed, and then you get the item that allows you to go into Act 5. Now you should still do this part as I told you on Elite, and you have to go to the village, you have to go to the barrier, destroy the barrier, and then you can immediately port to the second Gloom Vault port over here, and then you kill Carraxus inside the cave, you get his heart. Now Carraxus, from my experience, is not a very hard boss to kill, but he does have some DA reduction as well as 30 flat RR. And then you port over to Coven's Refuge, you give them the heart, and then you will be asked to find Barrowholm. And then you just skip over all of Agnenborg, you port to Barrowholm, and you talk to the guy in Barrowholm, and then you will have unlocked the Coven and Barrowholm factions at the same time. And after this, you just go to Ultimate, you don't have to spend any more time here in Elite. And in Ultimate, as I said earlier, basically do the same stuff again, except that you stop at Fort Icon, because going further than Fort Icon is just too scary in Ultimate. That's a no-go. So finally, you have reached the end of this video, congratulations, and this video took me quite a while to make, but here it is finally. I hope you guys enjoyed this one as well. I hope this one will make it easier for you guys to speed level. I hope all these tips helped you guys out a lot. And yeah, let me know in the comments if you still have some questions left. And also let me know how your speed leveling went. Like, what is your fastest record doing 1 to 94 leveling using this method? Let me know down below in the comments. And I hope I see you guys on the next video or on my next stream. See you around, and thank you for your attention.